I'm Lou Brutus, and it is always a pleasure to speak to one Elizabeth Lzzy Hale of Halestorm. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello, Lou.
You
As
know what?
always, it's a
I want to
pleasure to
hop
talk to
right
you.
in on the song "The Steeple" because even from the very first listen that I gave it, and of course it was all this James Bond hush hush, you know, email text will self-destruct stuff. I'm listening to the song and it transported me back to the very first concert I ever saw. It was Madison Square Garden, Black Sabbath, Ted Nugent. And when the lights went down and the crowd swelled up and the music began, I had a feeling that I had never had in my life. And I always try and sort of replicate that when I go to a concert. And I think the song does an amazing job of describing why it is you like to play shows, why people like me spend our entire lives going to shows. Tell me all about this song and how it came up.
This song, I mean, really, the concept was I wanted to write a song that, and I co-wrote it with the great Scott Stevens of the X's, who has been one of my songwriting partners, actually, literally my only songwriting partner outside of the band for a long time. We work really well together, but we got back together and we literally wrote Back from the Dead, and The Steeple was next after that, because we were discussing literally what you just described, how it's such this, I don't know, it's this intangible subject. It's hard to pinpoint why we do what we do, why these people line up, outside in the cold for 4 hours to be in the front row, or why some of our fans buy 8 meet and greets in a row, even though, it's just the same thing. Why do I love music? Why is it that I work so hard all day for that, like 60 to 90 minutes, on stage? Why do we do all these things? And so just really want to get to the heart of it. And this has been a subject that I've been passionate about before, with songs, in our past, like Rock Show or Freak Like Me and all of those things. I'm very much into unity. And the funniest thing was I was thinking about the rhyme that we all learned when we were kids, here's the church, here's the steeple. And I literally laughed for, probably 10 minutes straight at that. It was like, wait, that's it though. But these are my people. And also, this is a subject that obviously has come up a million times before, but writing these songs with Scott, but like also over the period of COVID and this, kind of just being isolated from all those people, and us kind of being faced with an unknown future. Touring stopped. We had no idea whether we were going to be able to do that again, whether we could get in or out of the studio. So kind of had to put all of that energy that we would have put out into some tour or whatever, into these songs. And so I love the opening line, "It stopped raining in my head today," because that's literally how I feel if I'm, have any anxiety or depression during the day or whatever. As soon as you get up on that stage, and I know it's the same way for the people that go to the show, whatever they're going through on the outside, that just melts away. It stops. The storm stops in the head, and you get to be surrounded by people like you doing what you love. And it's just the most amazing thing. So really wanted to kind of pinpoint that in a big way on this album. Yeah. I'm literally rambling.
No, it's quite all right. And again, if there could ever be a drug that could replicate that butterfly in the stomach feeling that I get when I go to see particularly a real favorite band of mine, when those lights go down and it's like, oh, here we go. I remember that. it's better than anything, you know. So congratulations on encapsulating that into such a great sounding song.
Thank you. Well, you know, and it's interesting too, because we talk about, and in the song too, there is this feeling of community, but there's also this survival, because, you know, when you're saying, you know, it's been a long road out of hell up to the steeple, and, you know, it's, you're, yeah, sometimes I think this is my steeple too. But, but I don't know. I think a lot of people were feeling that. I know we were feeling that, because we just said, hey, if we ever make it through this, you know, we gotta come out with a bang, and we have to stand up for exactly what we believe in. We have to say everything that we're feeling, and, you know, really never take anything for granted. And so wanted to encapsulate that in the song as well. It's something that I talk about a lot in songwriting, is that if you are writing something that you're passionate about, something that is your truth, something that you're going through, there are so many other people that are going through the same thing that you're going through, and to remember that you're not alone in your feelings. And so even through writing this song, it helped me through a lot of what was going on in my brain, and a lot of the doubt or the uncertainty or the feelings of, hey, who am I without all this? Now that this is gone and the world has stopped, who am I? And not just this song, but on this entire record is kind of my journey of coming through that, and what it took to do that, and so some crazy things that happened in between. Just getting over that. Yeah.
You know, you mentioned anxiety before, and you just touched on a few things, but what else happens in life that, because again, on the facade, it's like, oh, she's a Grammy Award winner and she tours and she's got albums, easiest life in the world. But, you know, what are the things that make you anxious?
Well, you know, I was just having a conversation the other day with fans on Twitter about this. Sometimes I get a little gabby, as you know, on social media, and we have such
by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt. Quick aside: some nights I'll go to bed at like 1 a.m. and I see you post Ask Lzzy, and then I wake up at like 7 and it's still going, and I'm like, shit,
yes.
This girl doesn't sleep. Pardon the interruption. Please continue.
No, insomnia is real, but it's also a lot of fun to talk with this community, because they're so wonderful, and even if I'm not talking to them, I can go on any of my socials at any point in time. You see people just lifting each other up, and somebody be like, hey, I'm in a dark place, and all these people will get on, hey, DM me, like talk it out with us, like we're here for you. And they in turn were doing that for me. A lot of the things that I've gone through in my life with anxiety, I have bouts of depression that I go through. The things that I guess make me anxious are, a big one is imposter syndrome. I've had to kind of go through that, because I'm still, you know, you still feel inside like you're just this dork from Pennsylvania. And there's been so many wonderful things that have happened in my life, and there's so many people that sing every word to every silly song that I've written. And you get in these places sometimes, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but you just don't feel like you deserve to be here. And you feel like at any moment, you know, you're just going to be caught with your pants down, and they're going to be like, aha, knew you didn't deserve any of this, and go back home, you know. And I know on my better days that isn't real. And a lot of what I battle with myself is that whole kind of spiraling out situation where something will happen and I won't be feeling good about myself. And then that will end up snowballing into, now I'm just thinking ridiculous thoughts, you know. And when I come to the surface, and especially if I'm writing through it, which has become a motto, I'm just like, all right, what am I feeling? I got to sit down and just write, even if it's like 3 pages of venting gibberish that won't even become anything productive. It's very helpful. But again, by doing that and coming out the other side, you can remind yourself of who you are. And I think, especially through songs like The Steeple and a lot of these songs on this new album, it was kind of me looking in the mirror in a different way, because now all of a sudden I'm seeing the Elizabeth Hale on my couch and not Lzzy, the rock star. And I haven't seen her in a while. And I'm like, who are you? And who am I without all this? And so it's wonderful to have music and being creative as a tool for all of that. And I'm very lucky to have that outlet. But I touch on a lot of those subjects on this album. I think it was just, again, I know we were all going through it, but even though we know that the entire world was and still is going through it, sometimes you feel like you're the only one. And I don't know, again, talking about that intangible, that magic that is music and that is shows. And man, I feel that on stage every night too. It's something clicks, you know. I get a little panicky, not in like a I'm gonna be nervous and throw up way, but just heightened sense of everything. And then you walk on stage and just something changes, and then you are literally just elated for however long you're on there, and you have the afterglow too. But it's just I don't know, I really wanted to make sure that on this particular song and also on this record that I addressed it and almost honored it, you know.
Quick aside, with the shows that you have done, when you look out into the crowd, how often do you see fogged up glasses from people wearing masks?
Quite often, actually.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because you know, the fans have gotten creative in masks, and sometimes they say something, you know, sometimes it's like I'm really happy under here, I'm singing every word, you know. Sometimes it's or they'll bring signs that say that, just so if I can't see their face, they know that they're actually they want me to know that they're happy. Another amazing thing that's been happening lately, and I started doing this a long time ago, BC, back before COVID. I started writing these little love letters and tossing them out into the crowd. And it's basically generic. I'll usually say something like "Dear Freak" or "To Who It May Concern," and just write a random love note to somebody. Sometimes I sneak in some unknown lyrics and all of that, just to, you know, keep people crazy on Twitter. But all of a sudden now I'm starting to get bombarded with them back, as in just at the end of the night, there's just letters being thrown on stage, and it's just such a beautiful thing. And it's great to know that we are all in this together, and just to feel that and to celebrate being together. Again, it's truly wonderful to experience.
Well, let's go back, if we could, and talk a bit more about making Back from the Dead. Two of the folks on the creative team for this are they're just two of my favorite rock and roll people, one of whom I've gotten to watch work, Nick Raskulinecz. The other one has made some of my very favorite records, Chris Lord-Alge. So if you would, let's first talk Nick, who I know you've known and worked with for a long time. Tell me about him in general and why he's so damn good, and why you like going back to work with him. And then same thing for Chris. So first, Nick Raskulinecz. Let's talk about him.
Well, Nick Raskulinecz, the reason he's so good is because he is a genuine fan of the rock genre, and you can see that in his face and in his motions when we're recording in the studio. I wish I had more video of it. It's like it's like Jack Black in School of Rock. Like, that's the best way I think I can put it. He's running around with a drumstick, you know, and all right, oh no, that, oh this, that, and he has a whole language, like he's like you know, on guitar. He's just sitting there, and he's right in front of you and playing guitar. It's like, all right, here we go. And everything has to be a performance. It's not like cut and okay, we'll do this a million times. So it's all right, here comes the chorus. I need a skadoosh. I'm like, skadoosh. He's like, yeah, like the rare, you know, all right, double skadoosh right before this next chorus, you know, like those things. And then him working with RJ is just amazing to watch. And you know, my little brother, like he, you know, you can pretty much throw anything at him and tie one hand behind his back and he's going to be able to do it. But it's so much fun because you know, Nick is a great drum guy. He's a big fan of drums and can hear it. I mean, he worked with Neil Peart, you know, so so he'll throw these crazy ideas out at RJ, and then RJ will do them. He's like, oh, okay, no, now do it this way, but then reverse that. It's like, it's a lot of energy, and like just a genuine, like kind of like what we were talking about with just the fandom in the front row. Like he's that guy. When we played in Nashville and Bridgestone, he came to the show with a huge sign that said Joe, for my guitar player, Joe Hottinger, with a hole in the middle of the O for where the picks are supposed to go, and like stood like 30 feet out and are just trying to catch picks, and Joe's winging them. And it's that kind of energy is why we keep going back to Nick, because it's not just, hey, I'm the producer and what I say goes. It's very much he becomes a fifth member of the band. We would jam like all hours. He's an awesome bass player, and we would just pick a key and go. And sometimes those things would work out, like, oh, that was a really good riff. Oh, we should actually record that, you know. So I love working with him because of his energy, but also extremely knowledgeable in how to create sounds. We have some of the best guitar tones ever on this album. Same thing with the drums. He just knows and has an ear for that. So and he brings that old school energy too, which we like. We've always had this balance of keeping things a little bit more raw, and just as a nod to the past and the music that we grew up listening to, but also with, you know, obviously trying to be up to date and with the times, you know, and add these new school elements into that foundation. And you know, so everything just sounds that way, and he understands that completely. So yeah.
Please forgive me for a quick aside. I have to tell you a very
No, I love it.
brief story. I was doing an album premiere special with Alex and Getty from Rush, and it was one of the records that Raskulinecz had produced. And they're giving me this wonderful answer about a song, and they kept bringing up Booge. They said, and then Booge had us do, and then Booge did that, and I have to interrupt them. I'm like, guys, what the fuck is Booge? And they were like, oh, and they start laughing. They go, well, that's our name for Nick Raskulinecz, because he would want sounds from Neil, and he would go, well, I need you to play that babada babada Booge, Booge. And so that became his nickname. And so to this day, whenever I see Nick Raskulinecz, I think Booge. I think I did Booge things for him once too.
That is awesome. I'm gonna have to bring that up because I don't think he ever brought that up to me. That's awesome and very apt.
Yeah. Now then, another person very instrumental in the basic sounds of Back from the Dead is Chris Lord-Alge, and this guy, he should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just for mixing the job he did on Green Day, American Idiot. Now tell me all about this guy, because I have not gotten to watch him work up close, but I love the sounds he gets. Tell me all about this guy.
Well, you know, it's funny, when we've been working with Chris Lord-Alge literally since the first record. Yeah. And what I love about him is that he doesn't just kind of set it and forget it and be like, oh, it's my thing. He loves to evolve with us and with his bands, and we go back and forth a lot, you know, when we're doing mixing, because he really cares about getting it to the point where we want it. And you know, because a lot of people just kind of say, oh, and he absolutely could. We trust him completely, but he's just so collaborative with that. And we got to watch him work only once, and on the first record we were in LA, and we stayed with him like all day, and we went through every single song, and he's like, all right, now you go in the lounge, let me do some magic, and then I'll invite you back in. So like we go into another room, and then he'll pop his head. He's like, all right, it's done. Come and see what you think. And then we go and we listen to the song. And of course, especially on the first record, we were blown away because we're like, we don't know what a mix is, And like this guy has like 1,200 Grammys. Go to town. But also he really cares about us as a band. It's more than a mixer. He's been part of our team, our family. He cares about the evolution of our band. He cares about how my voice sits in the mix. He cares about the drums. He cares about the guitar solos and where they sit in the mix. And it's just a pleasure to work with him. And I feel like with us as a band, we tend to do that a lot when we find people that respect what we do, and obviously we respect what he does. There's a certain amount of loyalty with that, and as you get to know each other over the years and go through things together, it just puts a different spin, on each record. And it's like he's kind of able to grow with us as well. So I love the guy. And he's also one of those guys that I'll get a random call from him at like 1 a.m. because he's on a red eye, or he's in the airport lounge, and like for no apparent reason at all, I'm like, oh, Chris, how you doing, man? You all right? He's like, yeah, I was just bored in the lounge and thought I'd give you a call. So I love that about him as well.
And so folks know when referring to him in texts, it's CLA. You had texted that to me. I'm like, CLA, they got a new agency? Are they booking agent or something? It's like, no, Chris Lord-Alge, dumbass.
No, it's so funny because that's literally what we started calling him just in the studio, like with Nick and everything, or we'll call him the Lord-Alge.
Yeah, after you get your 10th Grammy, I think anybody gets to be called Lord. So
yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Now, and granted, you only had that one time we were actually sort of there as he was mixing. I would be curious how it was for him, but also for you and the band when you're listening to mixes come in. Do you listen loud? Do you listen soft? Do you listen on great big expensive speakers and then switch to some cheesy piece of shit radio, like it would be in somebody's like bad car? I'm really serious about it. Do you listen to it on all sorts of different equipment? Tell me how he did it. Tell me how you like to do it.
As far as Chris goes, he usually keeps to his studio and has amazing speakers. I think I remember him talking about him testing things in a car too. Yeah. As far as the rest of us, we're like maniacal about it. We'll listen in the car, we'll listen in like really good speakers at either Nick's studio or in our basement studio. Then you got to like listen through the headphones and the earbuds, and just to see, because there is a different perspective, and people are going to be listening on all sorts of things. So to get that kind of consistency is difficult. And there was a lot that went in on this record. So we were literally like last minute, 11th hour, like, wait, Chris, can you bring this up here? And then of course we have a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Because like, as I was mentioning you before, we ended up bringing in Scott Stevens of the X's to co-produce this album. So we have Nick, who's like making sure that like all the instrumentation and the big fatness is up to par with the mix. And then you have Scott, who I love him, but is the reason that I love working with him is because he's just as nerdy about the vocals as I am. So it's like, so he and I were like just texting at like 4 a.m, like, have you listened to Steeple yet? And you're like, where does the bridge sound funny to you? And then we get Chris on the horn. So it was a huge undertaking. And I feel like the more that we go on, because we're less and less naive about the process, it just becomes more and more just crazy, and just a lot of opinions on where things should be. But But yeah, but it's fun. It's a great process because when you finally like, when everybody, that's what I love about this album, because when everybody like was listening to those final mixes and we were like, yes, this is it. We've all agreed that this rocks. And you're like, okay, I think we're done, guys, and we can kick it out in the world. And then everyone's like, okay, hurry up and wait for a date. So now it's just the waiting is the hardest part. But yeah, it's fun, man. It's a fun process, and to make sure that all of these songs have life and get the getting the sound right is just giving them what they deserve, and getting the mix right is giving what the songs deserve and letting them breathe in certain areas. And then obviously then we go through sequence discussion as what's going to be first, what's going to be last. And that's always the hardest part too. We usually start by thinking about it like it's a set list, and if we were to play the entire album on stage, and then you got to think about, well, where does the ballad go? How do we take people on a ride? And those are always hard discussions as well, because everybody just cares so much, which is a good thing.
So really, as I look back on each separate section of the making of this and other albums, it would appear and sound like whatever section you're working on at that point, sequencing, recording, writing, is in fact the hardest part of the making of the record. Like, they're all the hardest parts, aren't they?
It's all the hardest parts. That is, I think, the truest way to say that, because it's like, you think about it, okay, you're trying to write a great song, and that's crazy in itself, and just complete brain drain of that, and then you're recording it, and that is equally as hard, because we try to push ourselves on every record. This is probably one of the most complicated musically that we've done, just in a different way. We decided to take all of the elements that are us as Halestorm and just elevate it, go to 11, if you will. and so yeah, so that's hard. And then trying to figure out where you're going to go, trying to figure out what you're going to call it, what are you going to call the album, how is the artwork going to reflect in that. But the beautiful thing about creating is that when you get to that finish line, and then you get to just hand it over to the world, it's out of your hands now, it's just the best feeling. It's also really scary. So I think we chased that track.
And when you first hold a physical product again, like it's done. Yeah. 9 months of grinding and crippling anxiety over each section of it. When you finally hold it, do you get one last round of anxiety thinking, man, I hope we spelled everybody's names right. I hope the liner notes aren't screwed up. You go through that too?
Yes. It's so funny with the liner notes, because they've gotten crazy over the years, because with every, with every album, there's like still a lot of people that were there from the beginning, and then there's new people, new friends or girlfriends or whatever it is, whoever you gotta put on there, just to make sure that you're not in the doghouse, which happens, by the way. Like, or then there have been a couple times that we've misspelled, or there was a typo with somebody's name, and it's just out there forever. The poor guys, and it's just, yeah. So you got to go over all that. And then, like, I don't know, with each one, with every album, I've tried to be a little bit more creative with how you actually present, the thank yous and the liners and all of that. And so I kind of ended up putting it into, for lack of a better term, just kind of an essay, and talking about a little bit about what it meant to make this record. And then, of course, here's all the people that made that happen, and all the people that are making sure that, our world keeps spinning. And so that's an interesting one too. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. You get that physical copy because it's already over. And it's all those things. Did we do the right thing? Is the sequence right? Should we have started with something else? Did we forget mom, you know, on the liner. Did we forget somebody in the thank yous? Yeah. And then you have to kind of just be like, well, it is what it is now.
If it brings you any comfort, I did an interview once years ago at WMMR in Philadelphia, and I interviewed the the director of some of the classic Bugs Bunny and Looney Tunes cartoons, the late Chuck Jones, who also did The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. You know, he was a much older fellow at that point, but I was thrilled to speak to him, really. And I said, gee, you know, you've won Oscars, and your work now is in museums, and you're hailed as a genius. Can you go back and watch these cartoons? Do you enjoy it? Or do you see things you want to fix? And he went, oh my God, it's horrible torture. All I see are the mistakes. And like, here's a guy who's like 80 years old, you know, Oscar, he's won everything. He's gotten every sort of laudatory thing there is to get. And yet he goes through the same thing, you know? So please don't feel bad. You're not the only one.
That makes me feel great. I also kind of feel guilty because when it's done, you have the physical copy. I usually give it like 1 or 2 more listens, and then I never listen to our album ever again.
That's one way of avoiding, you know,
yeah,
one way of avoiding self-doubt.
I don't want to know. I can't change it. I don't want to know.
All right, a few quick other things before I let you go, and you've been very kind with your time. But first, what's sort of the timeline for the year? I know the album is out May 6th. I know you have Europe on the books, but there have got to be some other plans afoot. What might they be?
You know, it's really hard right now because we have some plans that we're trying to work through with the Pretty Reckless, because we want to go back out with them again. There's also talk of possibility of returning, going to Europe with Amy Lee, with Evanescence again. We also have plans on possibly doing an evening with, but it's been interesting because it's still a little bit of an unknown future. You know, there are dates put in place, but as long as there are still surges and governmental situations about going over to different countries, quarantine time, budget wise, if you have maybe 4 dates in the UK, that's not really worth you flying all the way over to do those things unless you can connect with either Germany or whatever. So there's been a lot of talk of how to navigate that, but you know, we have a great booking agent and he's really creative. And I think that's what we're going to end up having to do on this album cycle, is literally just kind of fly by the seat of our pants and make plans, absolutely act on, you know, believing and knowing that they're going to happen, but also in the back pocket with the possibility of maybe it's not going to happen. And that snowballs because then, you know, fans, there are a lot of people that aren't buying tickets because of getting together in large groups and all of that. So we've been very lucky on all of these dates. There's a lot of people that come out and it's awesome. And so it's kind of this double-edged sword, because you want to make sure that everybody's safe and you want to do the best, you know, you can for obviously the audience, your crew, all of that, but you want to keep touring, and you know, so it's kind of a balancing act.
And far be it for me to look too far down the road, because, you know, Back from the Dead isn't even out yet, but during the sessions, did you do any cover songs, and or has there been any talk yet about what might be on the next cover song EP?
That's awesome. We did not record any cover songs in the studio, but we have an extensive list and are absolutely planning on doing another one. There's been, I forget what we were talking about. Who does the song? I forget who does the song. I want to live like common people. We talk about that song. There's just a list ongoing that people keep giving suggestions. I would actually very much enjoy at some point getting some suggestions from you, Lou, because you have been
you don't use my suggestions. And by the way, I know you, like everybody you see, and I know all the fans are like, by the way, here's my list of 50 songs you should cover.
Yeah.
But two, I'll tell you two songs, and I don't remember if I've mentioned them before, but I'll mention them again. One is a song that should have been a hit for Kiss. It's the opener on the Love Gun album. It's a song called "I Stole Your Love." Do you know the song?
I do know the song. I do.
You guys would
that would be
smoke that
awesome.
tune.
And I'll tell you what, all my guy friends would flip out because they're all Kiss fanatics.
Yeah, and it's a big enough song, like the Kiss fans would know it, and some of the sort of peripheral Kiss fans, but it's not like doing rock and roll all night and party every day, because
Yeah.
how can you improve on that or really do it differently? The other tune is quite obscure. It's from a band from the area you're in right now. You're in North Jersey. They were from Long Island. They came this close to making it. They were called the Good Rats. They had an album on Passport produced by Flo and Eddie of the Turtles called From Rats to Riches, that opened with a song called Taking It to Detroit, which you can find. It's on iTunes. It's on the services. Listen to Taking It to Detroit. You guys could take that song, Halestormize it. I swear to God, you'll have a fucking hit with it. Oh, I hope you cover Taking It to Detroit.
That would be awesome. We love doing covers like that weren't it did not become huge, but then you can see yourself doing those. It's a beautiful thing, because sometimes if you do something that has had such a huge life on its own, it's just kind of, unless you're going to be doing unless you're going to be doing like when Typo Negative covered Cinnamon Girl, which was just, they took it in a whole weird way, as they do. But yeah, unless you plan on doing those things, I prefer the obscure actually. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
One other thing that I would love to see from you guys, most specifically from Joe, has he thought about putting a book together of his photography? Because he has turned into an amazing photographer.
That's super sweet of you. He really has. He's been doing it for years, and he's literally been talking about that since we finished the record, because he's like, I need another project. And he's been putting together just some ideas as to how to actually go about that, what it would look like, what the layout would be, would there be stories to go with it. So yeah, that's definitely in the works, and I'm so proud of him, because he went from he started really getting into photography before we made the first record. Oh yeah, no worries.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We have the security dog among us.
Nothing's on fire, right? Everything's okay.
No, nothing's on fire.
Okay.
Thank you. They didn't get the joke.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I'm so proud of Joe and his photography. And it's so funny because I'm usually, because we hang out so much, I'm usually the subject matter of it all. And I told him you could put together a whole book of just me looking just disappointed because I'm over it. Because like we'll be like doing something and be like, hey, Lzzy, stand over there. I'm like, but I'm doing something. Okay, fine, I'll go stand over there. But yeah, that's definitely in the works, and I can't wait for that to happen either.
Elizabeth Lzzy Hale, always a pleasure to speak to you.
Dude, I love you so much, and I can't wait to embrace you again, just give you a huge hug. You've just been a part of our family for so long, and I miss you, man. And I really appreciate you taking the time for me. And this is just us talking, man. It's a conversation, and just trying to keep the the rock and roll heart alive.
It's and that's these are the kind of things, and you're one of the people I like to speak to best, because it doesn't feel like an interview. It's more like music nerds talking about music nerd shit.
Yeah.
So and
which should be the title of your show.
That's music nerds. That wouldn't be too bad. Maybe a podcast. Maybe if I finally get around to doing a podcast, that's what I'll call it. Music nerds talking music nerd shit. You can be my first guest. How's that?
It's a date.